Welcome to Moving Forward, conversations on culture, identity, healing, and hope. I'm your host, Linda Anderson, and I created this podcast as a space for real, heartfelt conversations with people who are reflecting, evolving, and boldly stepping into what's next. This podcast was born out of my own journey through seasons of loss, transition, and transformation, and my belief that healing happens when we come together to share our stories. My hope is that these conversations will inspire you to pause, reflect, and find courage as you move forward in your own life. So today I'm joined by Sri Narayanan, founder of Kodely and co-creator of Nala AI. After the pandemic, so many students faced isolation, mental health challenges, and unfinished learning. Sri launched Kodely to help schools reimagine after school, intersession, and summer learning through design thinking and tech literacy. In just 1 year, Kodely has reached over 2,100 students across more than 45 districts in California, Washington, and New York City. Sri and I also share some special ties. We both studied at Rutgers University, and she now works in New York City, where I began my career in the early 80s. And today, I also have the honor of serving on Kodely's Advisory Board, which gives me a front row seat to the incredible impact of Sri's work. Sri, I am so thrilled to welcome you to this podcast.
Thank you so much, Linda. I'm so excited to be here too and, to connect with you right here.
So, Sri, if you and I we share some roots. Both of us studied at Rutgers University, of course, at different time periods of our lives. But I want to know, how did your time there shape your perspective and your path toward creating Kodely?
Absolutely. So Rutgers was actually so foundational for me. Growing up in Jersey, I, had a lot of friends that were going to Rutgers. I remember in high school, everyone's like, "Oh, you're just going to Rutgers?" Like everyone goes there. I was like, you know what? Like it's great. And the first time I stepped onto the business campus, I was amazed. Like I fell in love with the campus. I love how diverse every single campus is. It's so different, and you get a different setting across each landscape. And it was amazing. I had the best 4 years of my time there. I went to the New Brunswick campus and I was exposed to such a diverse community of people, different stories, different challenges, different ambitions. And it instilled in me that idea that education is more than academics. It's about access, opportunity, and belonging. And I found so many different clubs and organizations that I was part of, which also gave me that leadership perspective. I was president of several clubs. I started my own clubs, and there were just so many opportunities to really go and to make use of. And so that perspective is eventually what shaped me building Kodely, because I wanted to make, high quality hands-on learning accessible to all kids. And not just a select few. So that was really the kind of like launch pad for me, as I started that.
Yeah, thank you for that. But I also know too that during that time, the pandemic and so on was happening or beginning to happen. Anyway, how did the pandemic shape your vision to create Kodely?
Absolutely. So during that time, during the pandemic, I was part of that, and my graduation was actually part of that time too in 2021. And so, I started to see how disconnected students were from school, from each other, and everyone kept talking about the learning loss. And I was like, what does that look like? What does that mean? If I'm in college, I'm experiencing this. What about students who are in elementary? They're just learning to read for the first time. What does that look like? And that's what pushed me to actually start Kodely and start wanting to work on that. And I wanted to just see, hey, what does reimagining learning look like? And more importantly, when we come back like into the classroom, and that was kind of the time when I started Kodely, now that kids were coming back into school, getting them re-engaged, getting them to say, hey, I don't want to just be behind a screen all the time. How do I get that passion and the excitement started? And so I really was focused on this idea of giving students that launch pad for problem solving, creative thinking, critical thinking, and giving them the ways to actually find the different pathways that they were passionate about. And I think when you find your passion, you're excited to learn and you're excited to go ahead and discover new things. So for me, it was really about, being in this time where, yes, we were disconnected, we were kind of individual, but at the same time, we're all united by a certain passion or area that we're, interested in. And that was exactly why, I started this, and that kind of was a good launch pad for that too.
And I'm hoping the listeners hear your passion. That is really what drew me to you when we first connected through the computer is your passion. Just it's very invigorating to me. And I'm hoping our listeners, and I'm sure they feel it too. The other thing that you're building is Nala AI. I know it's new, but can you share what it is and how it connects with your broader mission in education?
Absolutely. So, just in a few words, what Nala AI is. Nala, named after my mini golden doodle because she's full of energy, so curious, was the inspiration for it. And so, when we started Nala AI, it was really a natural extension of, that mission to make learning accessible. So, what we did was basically build out. Anyone can take a PDF, they can take a YouTube video, they can take a website, they can even just take a few prompts or texts that they have, and it turns it into a full lesson for them. And it's a great way to practice knowledge, to study, to use it for high school exams, middle school, whatever that looks like, or even as a teacher and educator, or even if you're doing trainings, you can use this. Like if you have a PDF that you want to transfer into a full course and use it for others, you can go ahead and do that. And the awesome thing is that you have a learning companion on it called Spike. And Spike is actually your interactive tool who speaks to you. He talks to you. He kind of, can do this across 50 different languages. So if you have a student, let's just say you're using this in the classroom, who speaks both, Spanish, English, and maybe even French, you can make this content accessible for all your students, which is amazing. And so Nala really kind of brings that same spirit of innovation, but really making it more personalized and high quality learning that anyone can access at any time.
When we first started talking about Nala AI and myself with AI, trying to embrace and what's happening, what Nala AI helped is I kind of got used to seeing what it's about. It
Yeah.
is the AI part. It really helped me understand AI, that AI is actually, and you said it, a companion, and not to be afraid of it. And boy, it definitely can help so much. So I'm hoping our listeners understand that too, how much Nala AI can really help teachers and education. So thank you for sharing that. Many of the students, because of the pandemic, they face both academic and emotional challenges. But how does Codely support not just the learning? The key thing, though, is but also the confidence and well-being of students.
Yep. And I think that is really core to, our programs in general and our curriculum, because when we come in, we, first start off by, if it's a district or if it's a specific school site, we say, hey, what types of programs, what types of areas do you want to bring more attention to for your students, right? And a lot of times, it's a specific topic or specific area that the school sites or administration wants to focus on. But what we do is, especially we notice that a lot of students, they're scared to sometimes jump into new topics if they've never done it before, right? I mean, that's kind of understandable, especially if you're like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you're really young, you're learning something new for the first time. So what we really do is tie in examples that are real life applicable, that are relevant to them. And then a lot of times I remember when I was learning things, even as a kid, I would say, what is the point of this? Why am I learning this? And so you want to make it so relatable for them that they actually see the value in it. And so, for example, we had some students across our sites in Natomas. The school really, really wanted to use their 3D printers. And so we came in and
Mm.
we brought in like some of our 3D printing classes. We exposed them to actually how to use the software, how to set it up, but then we tied it into entrepreneurship. So the kids went ahead and they were building different products out of that they wanted to sell. They were designing out, like different ways to actually, kind of not just build something, but to actually like tie it into like a business application. So we really brought in a lot of like cross-curricular integrations, which, during the normal school day, you're just so busy and teachers are so packed with like testing and curriculum and all of that, that they don't have time to sometimes bring in these extra, fun adventures for the kids. So what we focus on is like making it interdisciplinary, making it relevant, making it fun, bringing in some type of community element. And so that way the students are doing the academic piece. I mean, yes, with 3D modeling as an example, they tied it into math. They tied it into spatial awareness and science. And there were so many different areas that they brought in, but they also brought in the piece of, hey, I'm going to bring it into my community. I'm going to, learn about entrepreneurship. I'm going to tie it into some, other areas that I also care about. And so that's the goal. This is just one example, but it can be seen across a lot of different elements for a program too.
I think the other goal that I'm listening to you too and have talked to you about this is you and those who work with you, work for you, you listen. You listen to what the need is, and you
Yes.
don't just say, okay, whatever. You go and you seek and try to find different avenues. The 3D printer is a great example. And I really want listeners to understand that you listen to what is needed because every district, every place that you work with is different. So, with Nala AI though, do you see what ways is Nala AI, is it able to help address some of these challenges for students or educators?
Absolutely. So with Nala AI, I mean, I've seen it across different sides. I've seen teachers use it. So for example, if they are, prepping some lessons for a sub, if they are just doing some extension activities, or if they have a classroom that's multilingual, right? I've had one teacher using it that has a classroom that has 25 different languages. And that like stat that I just heard from that teacher saying one classroom, 25 different languages, everyone is talking in a different language. You're trying to teach a science concept in English, but that is not going to apply to all the other students. So with Nala AI, what she did was she took the topic, maybe photosynthesis or, another area, she put that in and it built a course. And then she can go in and say, what languages do I want this course to be in? Customized it and almost made it like a fun Kahoot style where it was like a class session. So all the kids could do it at the same time, but they would see it in their own language. And that was what like really showed me that we are building something
Mhm.
that isn't just for, like one student or one population or one school. It's for parents to use. It's for, people around different countries to use. It's for different, learning styles and abilities. Maybe I'm more of a visual learner. Maybe I'm more of an auditory learner. So you can hear both sides of it. And then at the same time, another example is I had a high school student using it because they were prepping for an exam and they had a YouTube video that they were watching. They took that YouTube video, posted it in Nala AI, and actually came up with an awesome course to test their knowledge. So it didn't just give them flashcards, it didn't just give them basic reminders, it actually gave them like a full course with content and also gave them some practice questions in short answer form, multiple choice, math widgets, all these different kind of cool examples. And it generated all of that for them within 3 minutes. So they didn't even have to do the work of saying, oh, let me put together a course, let me put together questions. I remember still taking handwritten notes and turning that into like a
Mhm.
full like practice exam for myself. And like you have students here creating multiple versions of it, different languages, and like it's amazing to see that. And that's what really gets me excited because, we have so many different use cases for it. And I've even seen, one of our superintendents in HR was like, hey, I'm going to use this for corporate training. And I was like, great, like,
Right.
let's do it. So there's a lot of fun things that I've seen, and we're just getting started because we had to find our product market fit, if I'm being honest. When we
Yeah.
first started, we were building something totally different. And I know that you remember that because I came to you and I was said, hey, we're doing this science AI tool, and it's totally different than what we're doing right now. So we've definitely adapted, but in the best way possible based on user feedback.
Okay, so on that note too, it's the same thing. You're listening to what is needed. That's
Yes.
number one. But number two, I want to say, and I'm hoping listeners hear this, especially those in education, is how it can simplify your life. Because you now have in your classroom, your multilingual learners, students with IEPs,
Yes.
high achieving students, all. But this can help in so many ways. And I'm hoping that people understand that and start really looking into Nala AI, Kodely, to see how it can simplify. We have to simplify our lives a little bit in education because of the various type of students that we're helping move
Yes.
forward. Yeah. So on that note, though, can you share a story? Do you have a particular story or a story you can share about a student or school that really impacts the highlights of using Kodely?
Yes. So this summer for Twin Rivers, actually, this is just one example, but they came to us and they were like, "Hey, we really want to bring in like sports, but more so like not just normal sports. We want to do global sports, which is what we offered, and then also bringing in sports that would help students with their teamwork and their motor skills." So one thing that really stood out to me from that was the global sports piece. Because a lot of times when you think of sports, you think of like baseball and football and soccer, but there is like a global element across the world. Like when you're playing sports, it's very different across cultures. And a lot of times students across one, subset, in one region, one area might not know that, hey, this sport actually exists in a different country. So what we did was we brought sports from different parts of the world, and then we also tied it into community building, as well as like bringing it in and saying, hey, today we're going to learn about India and we're going to learn about cricket. And, tomorrow we're going to learn about, a sport from Japan. And so we tied it into different places in the world. So bringing in that cultural piece, bringing in the sports, and then actually teaching them how to do it. And they realized like it was so much fun. They had so much fun learning about it. They wanted to go back and revisit some of the sports. So that's just a small example of, one of the districts we actually built a custom program with. And on top of that, we built it in a way that could tie into the community. And at the end of the semester, we actually did a community showcase where we invited all the families in. And not just that, but we created the flyers for the families across 25 different languages. So we had it accessible for all the families to be able to see the flyers, to use it, to come in, to actually do the sports with their kids. And most importantly, like it was amazing. We had the county office there, we had other districts there, and it was just exciting to see like how excited the kids were to show their parents what they've learned that summer and like the different types of sports. And most importantly, it tied into fitness, to wellness, to their kind of emotional health as well, of like how happy they were. And then most importantly, the community piece, like that's huge. And that was a big focus of our programs that we saw.
Yeah, no, and you use the word creative a lot, and I really want to pull that out too, because these children now who we're working with, that is key right now as they're growing up and learning themselves. And a lot of it is so creative to let their minds go there. So thank you for that. What amazes me with Codely is it's just been a year, a little over, I believe, but it's grew to you're serving over 45 school districts. How do you think this was driven so rapidly?
Absolutely. I think like one thing that really kind of shaped our programs, and we're in a lot of private schools as well, and we've really grown because of the types of programs. And once again, it's all about like really listening to the needs of what our districts want. And so
Mhm.
I think at the end of the day, like we're building something that's not just, hey, here's what we do. It's very rigid. No, it's actually a lot of flexibility for our districts and our school sites because we want to actually make sure that students at the end are learning because we are serving students. We're not just saying, hey, here's a program, we think your kids might like. No, it's actually being built out for our students in real time. And, we have a set catalog, we have set programs, schools choose those programs. But at the same time, like we also come in and we adapt and we build and we do custom programs for, districts that need that. And, for example, we want to make sure it's the best program. We put a coordinator, we have strong programs in there.
Mhm.
And then we also ensure that, at the end, we have a showcase, right? It's not just about the kids just doing a different project every week and then taking that home, but it's about actually showcasing what they're doing with those who are around them to bring in the community piece and to show them that what they're doing is so important and what they're doing is so valuable. And we also kind of frame this in a way where, it's different pathways. When you're in high school, you have CTE. But what about when you're in elementary school? What about when you're younger?
Mhm.
You don't have those opportunities. And we need to open those doors for students at a way earlier age. So they're aware of what they like and what they're interested in. And that was something for me I did get exposure to early on. I did, kind of figure out, oh, I do like entrepreneurship. And, it's kind of
Mhm.
funny for a fifth grader to be like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. But like, that's the reality of it. Like, I did have those opportunities early on to go see
Mhm.
that and to go figure it out. And I want to make sure that every single kid gets that experience too.
Mhm. So here we are, the year 2025, and lots going on. How do you envision Codely evolving over the next 5 years? And what role might NALA AI play
Yeah.
in the future?
Absolutely. So I would definitely say that, when I first started Codely, we were definitely, a program that, like we were so small. We were just beginning. We were in our first few private schools, actually, when we first started. And then slowly we grew to this organization where, schools were knocking on the door saying, hey, can you run programs with us? Can you bring our programs in? Can you run this at our district? Can you do this? And that was, the point where I knew that, hey, we're building something really awesome. So I want that growth to continue. I want to see more and more students having that impact. And I want this to be across, different grade levels and different areas. Right now, we service a lot of elementary and TK. And I think that, what's so valuable is also being able to bring this into high schools. I think that there's so many awesome programs, and
Mm.
you know high schools better than anyone. And I was going to say bringing this into high school, but maybe for different areas that can be super valuable. And I know that bringing in career connectedness across different parts, that is another thing that was really impactful for me when I was growing
Mm.
up. And I really want to make sure our programs do that, tying that in more at the high school level. I definitely see ourselves, having that connection to high school. And most importantly, also growing our programs, even just across like the different areas. We first started off just doing design thinking and STEM, and to see where we've come now with the scope and the depth and the level of kind of program quality, it's amazing. And so I'm excited to keep expanding that and to grow our team even more too.
You were talking about the innovation, and you're so innovative. And both of the initiatives, your design thinking and artificial intelligence are rooted in the innovation. How do you see these two worlds working together to prepare the students for the future?
Absolutely. And I think the first piece of that is, from our programs with both the innovation and then also more so with the design too. I think there's two sides of it because when you start off with students and you give them that ability to critical think, then they can do anything, right? If you give them the ability to problem solve and add that into their toolkit, they can approach any subject. They can work on their test scores naturally because they're learning how to problem solve, learning how to do those, different ways. And that's why I think having such a strong enrichment program at the get-go is so important for districts because then they can kind of focus on those other elements of academic achievement and student attendance, because if they're excited to come to school because there might be an after school program running on a Tuesdays that they don't want to miss because it's so amazing and so exciting for them, that's the experience that we want to build and we want to create for them, so they're excited by that. And the design thinking was something that I started to really kind of fall in love with when I was in high school because it was something that showed me that you were, once again, you're not solving like a solution. You're not giving the solution right away. You're thinking about the problem, you're breaking it down, and you're learning how to problem solve effectively. And that was something that's so, so important and that I want to instill in students early on. With the innovation piece, I think there's innovation across all these different areas. And I think even in the classroom, like I've seen so many teachers use so many cool like resources and tools. And I think with Nala AI, we're doing that just even across like classroom support, classroom help, after school, so many different areas. And I also think that, as students start to build more confidence, learn the skill sets, they're going to go and do the same. They're going to be the ones who are starting the next companies, starting the next, maybe coffee shops, whatever it is. Like they are the ones that are doing those innovative things because they learn the skills. They're excited by, those different elements as well.
I'm hoping the listeners, and I'm sure they do, feel I'm so inspired still. I get every time I talk to you, I get inspired because of you know what's going on out there. You have the lens on this. I mean, I went to Rutgers in 1981, and I know you went many years later. And to hear the young, I'm going to say youngness because you're young, in your voice and the inspiration and just I want to go back in education, go back to teach again because of you. I'm not going to, but it's just an inspiring of where you're going with this. So you're a leader, and I'm hoping you understand that you are definitely a leader. But what have you learned about yourself through building Kodely and Nala AI? And what message, now here's a key one that I really want to leave the listeners with. What message of hope would you want to leave with educators, students, and families today?
I definitely think the first thing I want to say when I bring this up is It's really not about, kind of solving, different problems. I think it's more so about coming in with the ability to be resilient, right? And I think a lot of times, even when you're starting a company, everyone's like, "Oh, you're solving this problem, you're doing this," and I'm like, "Yes, for sure, we're solving these problems, but at the same time, we're learning to be resilient, we're learning to be creative, we're learning to adapt to change." And I think that's what I've seen across so many first schools and districts. You see that students are resilient, they're solving problems, educators are creative, communities are ready for change. And at the same time, that's exactly what we do every day, even as a company and even as an entrepreneur. And so I think the most important thing is being able to build something with empathy and with like a clear vision in mind. So you have a purpose for what you're doing, but at the same time, you want to also give every child an experience that, they're passionate about. Passion is something that I keep saying because, without the passion, you're not really going to be motivated to do something. And you want to get them passionate about those areas early on because if they can't see something, they can't see themselves doing that role in the future. They have no idea what that is and what they even want to be without that. So I think that's so, so important, is giving them that sense of passion, purpose, and making them resilient to solve any problem that comes their way. So those are just kind of the three things that I know super helpful for me. And also, I really want to leave with anyone that we work with too.
Oh, thank you so much. Shri, I just want to thank you again for joining me today and for sharing your vision. Through Kodely and Nala AI, you are helping schools and communities not only recover from the pandemic, but also to prepare them for the future of creativity and problem solving. I'm so grateful to be a part of this journey with you. It's a very small part, but I'm thankful that we've connected. And to the listeners, I want to say this. I hope you leave inspired about the possibilities ahead and when we combine innovation, education, and hope, what can happen. So this has been Moving Forward, and until next time, let's keep lifting up the next generation. Thank you. Bye, Sri. Thank you so much.
Thank you.